After maybe the single most devastating cyber attack in American corporate history, Sony Pictures Entertainment pulled the interview. But Sony CEO Michael Linton said he wasn't giving up, hinting to CNN that Sony may still try and release the movie.
We have not caved, we have not given in, we have persevered, and we have not backed down. We have always had every desire to have the American public see this movie.
But how exactly would Sony be able to get the interview to the public without showing it in theaters? Well, Sony has a few options, but they're not exactly bulletproof. Option number 1, Crackle. No, not like the cereal. We're talking about Sony's online video streaming service. Think Hulu, but with much less content and not quite as popular. The theory is that Sony could simply release the interview on Crackle to both stand up to an international cyberbully and generate interest in its streaming site at the same time. Sony would still generate cash since the site is ad-supported. Sony could also require payment from viewers. But then there are the leaked emails revealing that Sony considered selling Crackle as recently as November, meaning it may not be in love with the service. There's an alternative, though: video on demand.
Enjoy movies better with Time Warner Cable Movies on Demand.
Thousands of movies are available through video on demand, bringing new releases to the viewer in the comfort of their own home. But there's another problem here. As noted by Fast Company, for as big of a corporation as Sony is, it doesn't have its own video on demand service, aside from streaming on PlayStation, which doesn't have a large enough audience. Okay, so how about the numerous other video-on-demand services offered by cable companies? Fast Company notes there's yet another problem here, as movie studios typically ask for 80% in royalties for the first 2 weeks of showing a movie. If Sony were to lower that to offset any cyber attack retaliation worries for cable companies, there'd be the chance they'd never be able to raise the price again. So both Crackle and video on demand have their problems, but Sony still needs to release the interview in some form or another, at least in the opinion of Ken Paulson, writing for USA Today. What value is free speech if we're afraid to use it? This movie can't go unseen. At the heart of creativity is the courage to express yourself freely. Sony needs to summon up that courage right now. Sony has yet to announce any specific plan on how to get the interview to the public. The cyber group responsible for the attack has threatened to release more data if Sony does indeed release it. For Newsy, I'm Elizabeth Hagedorn, multiple sources, a broader view.